There are times when you believe more of your mom's prayer. There are times when you believe more of your dad's prayer. There are people whom you simply believe that if he prayed for me, God would answer. Simply because their lives has blessed you. You have seen something that is a quality that is in them. Noah preserved the faith that preserved. The faith that preserved animal. In Colorado Springs, we have plenty of deer in the city. And big deer, the last home where we stayed, Lucy and I, there was a male deer, a stag, that was, resting, long horns, resting at the back of the house the whole day. Grazing, grasses, and resting, grazing, and resting. I was thinking to myself, you lucky fellow. You are fortunate that you are here. If you ever live in Chin State, the whole state will run after you, isn't it? Whoever, even ladies will run after with one small dog. Think about the nature of preservation. We have not reached that stage. Even to say, I am a caretaker of God's creation. We are still in the destroying part. We have not reached, our civilization have not reached that stage where we would act by saying, I am a steward of God's creation. If God says this is beautiful, we need to act as a steward and say, God, I will preserve your creation and make it more beautiful. But as of now, till today, our theology is we are, more on the destroying part. A friend of mine in Naga say, why we are so angry against, the beer, why we are so, angry against, for example, monkeys. Simply just irritated. He said, maybe our last fight was not very far. Last, fight with the monkey group. Or last battle with the bears, maybe not very far. And that's why there is, resentment and anger. There are people who preserve things. And Noah is one of them. God gave that assignment and he preserves it. And I think that's where being a steward, my theology was changed in many ways. After Lucy and I, after joining this MA in leadership course, one of the subject talks about so much about God's creation. And that you and I, we are the caretaker. The word God said to Adam, till the land and take care of it, actually means take care, tend it, make it more beautiful. God is not saying, turn the soil upside down so that it would destroy by itself. No. Make this place a better place. And I think that's where we need to act. Faith that preserves. And coming to Abraham, there are two things that I am excited about. Abraham, when he was called, God said, get out. This Abraham didn't ask, where? If someone said, get out, you would be asking, north, south, east, west. God, at least show me that one. Then I will go. The Bible says, when he was called, he simply obeyed, not knowing where to go. He simply obeyed, not knowing which direction to go. And finally end up in the land Canaan. And God said, this is the place where I want you to settle. A Bible commentator said, Abraham got out of his geography, known geography. Those days, there was no map, There was no written pictures that Abraham would say, I need to cross this river. Do you know the word Hebrew? The word Hebrew comes from Abraham crossing Tigris rivers. Actually, Hebrew means crossing river. The man who crossed the river. That's why Abraham was called a man who crossed river. When the Hebrews say, we are a Hebrew, or the Hebrews of the Hebrews, Apostle Paul said, by race, I am Hebrew of the Hebrews. Yeah. He is saying, I am the one who crossed the river. When Abraham crossed, I also crossed, because I am his, in his genealogies. This morning, as we look at this life, faith that obeys, faith that simply takes the risk, faith that would venture out. I do not know about your faith. Sometimes I think we don't exercise our faith. We exercise more of what we see with our eyes, what we feel with our senses. That's not faith. Faith is something that is not here right now, and yet by faith you can claim it. By faith you can say, I possess it. By faith you can say, I have seen it. It will come. This morning I browsed through a book, and the title of the book is When the Angels Were Silent, written by Max Lucado. He was talking about a German man. I forgot his name. A German man. He was simply talking, this man was talking about flying like a bird. He said, it will be possible to fly like a bird, but he lived, very unfortunately, he lived in the 16th century. In the 16th century, if you talk about man flying like a bird, you would be considered as a fool, isn't it? Do you know when the Wright brothers were the first to invent plane, aeroplane, when they announced that it will be possible for man to fly, do you know the chairperson of that meeting, the church, the little church, their uncle, the Wright brothers' uncle was the chairperson of the meeting. He said that whatever inventions, discoveries and inventions that are to be found are already found. There is no way that man can fly. But the Wright brothers, that man's own generation, flew the first flight. Was it 8 miles that they fly the first time? And they simply disproved to this uncle, who was a deacon, an elder of the church, who said there is no way to fly. Don't limit God's power, isn't it? Because of your unbelief. Let me say, if you dare, if you believe, and if you, walk by faith, it is possible. And finally, faith that sees the promise. Think about an angel, 3 of them, passing by, and Abraham saw them. I do not know whether Abraham was, there is something that is in him that says, Abraham, go and stop them. Tell them I will prepare lunch for you. You never invite guests like that. If someone passes by, you don't go and say, would you like to come and eat food with us? Isn't it? The guest would knock at the door. Can we come and stay? But Abraham, he saw them passing by, and he said, stop. Come. I would like you to come and stay just for a while. You know what he said? When they stayed, they sat down. The Bible talks about a small tent, possibly under an oak tree, mamre oak tree, and Abraham